My background is really in community engagement, and so that's what I love about teaching here, is really creating space for students to talk about how to build authentic relationships with communities. Yeah, so it's really roundabout, which I think is often the case. When I was a postdoc, I did my PhD here in psychology, and then I did a postdoc in disability studies. And when I was doing the postdoc, I just stumbled upon a community organization called the Cultural Wellness Center, which is in South Minneapolis. And I started to learn about what they were doing, and could see ways that a lot of the things that I learned in my PhD program were incomplete. You know, that we're kind of socialized to be experts, we're socialized to think we can solve problems, but we really, at least for me after my PhD program, I didn't understand how what I had learned might complement what communities already have. Because I think we often think about communities having problems and us being problem solvers, and we don't think about how communities have this knowledge that's alive, that kind of sits in communities that people can tap into and activate to solve problems. And so at the Cultural Wellness Center, I really started learning about how to share intellectual authority with people, how to conceptualize problems together, and how to understand all of that knowledge, those assets, those resources, that infrastructure that lives in communities. And what's our role as professionals, quote unquote, in creating more space for that kind of knowledge, that kind of resource to be activated where we're working. And so it was kind of through that education in the community rather than education on the campus that I started learning about engagement, and really wanted to try to thread that through all of my work. And family social science for a number of years has been heavily invested in doing collaborative work with communities, both through the extension work that some of my colleagues do in the department, but also just through a whole bunch of other faculty members have really deep relationships with community partners. And so I mean, that's one of the great things about my job, is that I get to work with so many community-based organizations. So my main two community partners are really the Cultural Wellness Center and Healing Roots. But then I work with a whole bunch of other organizations. The North American Water Office. Boy, of course, I'm not going to be able to think of a lot of other names of organizations. Juvenile Justice Advisory Council. And so part of the joys of this job is I can do that work in the community and also invite community organizers, activists, cultural elders into campus to help teach the students. And I think that really resonates for students. And it's a way to kind of highlight the knowledge that does live in the community, that sits in community. And for graduate students, I think many graduate students are interested in doing some variety of community engaged participatory research. You know, they recognize that in order to carry out their research agenda, they really need to kind of join their knowledge with the knowledge that community partners bring. And so that's the kind of relationship that I think a lot of graduate students are looking to build, and it takes a long time to build that. So if they can get an introduction and they can get some support in trying to build those relationships, I think it helps. A lot of the work I do has an indirect impact on families. I see most of my role as trying to help shape community workers, so family workers, people who are sitting and working in those community agencies, and helping them to shape how they do their work. And I feel like through having community workers who are grounded in the communities that they're working in, who kind of have a good sense of boundaries, a sense of what is their role and what is not their role, that are good at seeing family strengths and community strengths and not just people's deficits, that if we can graduate folks who have the ability to do work in that way, then that's going to have a positive impact on families.